Hello, so I'm going to be showing how to paint a picture. First, you start with an underdrawing. You take your pencil and you just start sketching out where everything lands. Um, Looking at everything as shapes and not so much as the image itself. I usually sketch out like general shapes of what everything is and continue on like that. Then you're gonna hate your underdrawing and just restart and say, you know what, I'm just gonna go straight in with paint and let's see how this turns out. So you grab your handy dandy watercolor set from high school because you left your nice one at college and you cannot get on campus. So you start making a green color and then you start painting a leaf. Typically when I do this, I kind of just pick an object and start going for it. So this is me painting onto the canvas a leaf from the sunflower. Slowly but surely making sure I have the darker spots darker than the lighter spots. Always looking at each color as its own shape and continuing on to another leaf. So it's going to be the same process for most of the painting, especially right now when it's just doing leaves and making sure that the darker spots are dark. Right now it's pretty rough. Watercolor is very easy to work with. It can be worked on now, it can be worked on in 3 days as long as you have water and more color and a brush. That's also helpful too. Okay, so we're just gonna continue painting, listening to the sound of my voice, watching my hands paint this painting, because that's all the instruction I have for now. Smaller leaves are smaller than the bigger leaves. The further back they go, the smaller it gets. Ooh, now we're gonna start making petals. So you just mix your white and your yellow. I usually use a cooler tone yellow and a white, and then I go into a warmer tone yellow later. You'll find that throughout this video I use a lot of yellow ochre, which is like the brown, ruddier yellow, because it's for some reason my favorite color and always has been. So you just kind of paint into the flower. I make sure that around the center of the flower it's a little bit darker than the rest because that's how it generally occurs in nature, and you will see that instead of doing the underdrawing for the center, I am basically just outlining it in paint. So then you just kind of play around with the petals, realize that the color is way too dark, add a lot of water, and repeat that process over and over and over again. So general shapes are just there now, especially that I did the underdrawing beforehand on the other side of on the other painting. There's the fan brush. I used it that one time and then I didn't use it at all because I don't understand it. So then you just continue and start painting out the petals. I tend to take a lot of water onto my brush and make it a very, very light yellow that I can sketch out where they are basically, and if I want to go back and fill that in, I will. Right now you can see that it's a very, very, very light yellow that if I decide to paint over it, it won't cause too much of an issue. So you just kind of sketch out where the leaves are, the petals are, and continue to work on that so it's a nice yellow base. So now you're gonna start to darken up the center again, and now it's time for the center of the flower. You can't really tell, but I'm doing it very much like dots. It's almost like a stipple technique, however it's paint, so it's kind of more just freehand dots, shaky. I made my hand as shaky as possible, and I kind of outlined out a circle in the middle to match the photograph of the flower. That picture is actually taken in the Arboretum around the fall. I think that was probably September, August, early September maybe. It was really beautiful, and there's a little tiny bee, and I forgot to paint him. Spoiler alert, I'm really sad about it. But anyway, I'm going to continue on painting those little dots. It's really easy to just paint things in little dot techniques. Especially with this type of thing, I tend to use a lot of water and a little bit of paint. To make things darker, use less water and then I used black to make things really dark. The more water you use with black, the more translucent it becomes, but it still adds a darkness to your painting. That doesn't sound good when it's a yellow sunflower. So you just keep going around and making sure that everything is getting filled in, and you want to keep going in that circle pattern so you don't mess up the rhythm of how the painting is going to look. So then you do the center of the sunflower in a very small brush. If you look close up, the center of it is more in a radial pattern, almost like long strands going straight to the center. So I took a smaller brush and I started doing that, and I made it a more green color because it ended up being a little bit more green. At some point I don't know when it just ends up looking more brown. I don't know how I did that. I honestly don't know. I go into this sense of flow when I'm painting, and I honestly don't even remember when things happen. It's kind of crazy. And then my head blocks everything, so I can't even tell you what I'm doing. Oh, I'm adding a darker color yellow to the painting, which I end up regretting and somehow trying to fix that with more water. Painting's all about mistakes. I make them all the time. I actually have been awarded for some of my paintings. It's really fun. I love painting. It's a good, subtle flex. Anyway, so you're just going to keep painting. Sometimes to make things look lighter, you just had to add more dark colors because then it just kind of blends in. I also dripped right there and I had to fix that. So you're just going to keep adding more petals, and the darker petals should be in the back, but right now they're in the front, and that's a-okay. I think it was at this point where I decided this is going to be more of an interpretive flower and a little bit more not I wouldn't say impressionistic, but I wouldn't say realistic either. It's just kind of, how I was feeling at the moment. It was raining that day, and I'm really sad that it was raining because I wanted to paint outside in water because I love painting water. But anyway, so you're gonna just basically highlight different sides and low light different other sides, and just continue painting in green because on the bottom it is very, very green. And just filling in different spots. And then I really loved on the side of this how the wall of flowers on the other side was so colorful. So I was really excited to do that. I first wanted to lay down some green so I kind of knew where I was painting and where I wanted to paint. But overall, this was my favorite part of the painting and my favorite part of the photograph itself. So you're just going to kind of fill things in. I really should have painted that first, but, no rules. I don't think there should be rules in creativity. That's dumb. And basically, you're just going to keep going in with different colors and oranges, yellows. Honestly, you have creative license. You can put in blues if you want as well. But because this is in the background, I made sure not to make them too realistic looking. I made them as blobbish as possible because, in regular photography and, life, you can't really see things in detail when they're further back. Unless you have supervision, which is kind of cool. But other than that, it's just kind of all like that. And I ended up making the vegetation along with that, the green vegetation, a lot more like kind of flowy and squiggly because it looked really cool to me, and it kind of made it more of that almost like a romantic type floral pattern, I guess. So then I started to paint in more greens and make that more of like a behind the flower area. I don't know what I'm going with that. But here I'm adding height to the painting because it's a very short painting, and then when you add the lines, it kind of brings your eye up into the abyss that is the non-painting frame area of the piece. So now I am adding in all of the petals that are on the sidewalk. I just do that in a very nice, I tried to splatter it, didn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work. And yeah, there's my painting.